Welcome to yet another edition of the Amazing Race Canada Recap Podcast from the UR Team Number Facebook group. My name is Michael Harmstone, and I am joined, as ever, by the third Canadian ever to be inspired by Mario Lanza, Logan Saunders.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Saunders.
Yes.
We are live until 4 p.m. my time, 8 a.m. Logan's time, which is BST and PT respectively. If you want to get in contact with us during the next hour, you can do. You can tweet us using the hashtag yatncast, which you can see whenever I speak. There's also a Q&A on the Google Plus page. You can use the comments on the YouTube page, or just give us a shout on the group, which is linked in the video description. So, halfway through the season already.
Yeah, that went by. That was a quick 6 weeks there.
It's been a pretty good
We're
season.
down to
So far.
16s.
I'd actually probably say that Australia is a little bit weaker than Canada this season.
It's a definite jump up on Amazing Race 20.
It's good to see that we're podcasting about the better one of the two international seasons currently airing. Because I don't think Australia started as that strongly, especially compared to season 2. Which I still maintain is the best international season of Amazing Race ever. Ever. So, what do you think on the episode, at least?
I just feel bad for Cormac and Nicole if they had to watch a whole hour of people racing through Winnipeg on TV last night. That must have been terrible.
I feel bad for Natalie and Megan having to watch a whole leg of people doing a hockey task and them sucking at it.
Yeah, they definitely body break the task, that's for sure. But yeah, when the first drew marker said go visit the Golden Boy and atop the legislative building, I thought they were referring to Cormac, but I was wrong.
You were indeed wrong. He's only the Golden Boy of the Foster family.
Yes. Compared to the other one that we assume is locked up in the basement or the essence.
I guarantee if Nicole has ever seen any of our recaps, she would not have favorited our tweets. I've had, 2 retweets?
Yeah.
And a favorite, and a couple of tweets.
Still have yet to see this in yesterday.
Yeah, she... I've got a feeling she's not seen a single bit of our podcast. Because she would not be best pleased with us calling them creepy every week.
Yeah,
and,
still just
saying stuff like she wants her other child in a cage. Yeah, I think it is. Although, Suki and Jinder, you love us, we love you, so it works out. Still the best team ever. Best team in the race. So, only Natalie and Megan and their Express Pass.
That's just amazing. Ginger has more
pass.
energy at 6 a.m. than I have after consuming a ton of caffeine.
I can't believe how trolley the producers were with this. With the hours of operation, they put the box right behind the door, so Ginger just tries to slam into it. And then, when it's actually open at 6 o'clock, it's in the atrium. They got to actually walk inside the building.
If only Casper was on me.
Yeah, he'd get probably an 8-hour lead on everyone else. So yeah, Natalie and Megan and Pierre and Michelle and their respective Express Passes, Elaine and Andre, and Cormac and Nicole, hashtag Team Creepy, were the only ones mentioned in the intro this week. And as you said, teams had to fly to Winnipeg. Welcome to beautiful Winnipeg, Manitoba, the murder capital of Canada, 2 years running, and find the Golden Boy, which is at the legislative building.
Golden Boy almost sounds like a nickname for a possible murderer in town.
Yeah. Guys, have you heard?
The Golden Boy murders of 1974.
I'd love to see a Zodiac killer letter, but addressed from the Golden Boy. Maybe when Cormac goes evil.
Demented Cormac. DC.
Tired of seeing his sibling being locked in a cage. And teams have 100 toonies for this leg of the race as well.
100 toonies. Wow.
To be fair, they did
That's really
phrase it,
white.
they phrased it
They
as
would
two
have
hundred
given him
dollars,
pennies,
but
but they don't make pennies anymore.
yeah, it'd be pennies from heaven. Uh, pennies from heaven. Um,
Um, and yeah, and Alan at first at 11:40 was
it
it
was actually
11:48, and they did
pretty.
fall asleep before checking out, unlike a certain Aussie team this week.
I heard a very interesting theory on that. Actually, I know Ben, Michelle, and Eamon picked us up on it, but apparently the reason John and Murray didn't depart on time is because they'd already checked Christchurch's airline times, knew that no flights would be leaving until about 6 a.m., and thought, why not stay in the warmth and have a free hotel for another hour? They didn't oversleep. It was 100% strategy,
That makes sense. They did. They.
which, is a very sneaky move,
I
but
guess it'd be
also
like
quite
so they
impressive.
didn't gutsy granny it then.
They didn't. They deliberately did it because they thought we're not going to be flying out anyway. Might as well conserve our energy. Get a comfortable bed instead of having to sleep on the steps of the legislative building like the Canadians. Um, but all
Did looking at Ryan's shirt make you want to watch the Ryan and Amy show?
I think he's
Because
worn that
I've had
T-shirt
no
before.
desire to check into that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think he wore that in leg two because I seem to remember picking up on it then. So asking, does Ryan actually have his own merch? Um, but yeah, all the departure times were really close together. It's the closest they've been all season. They were 54 minutes apart between all seven teams. Starting at 11:48, then 11:50 for Ryan and Rob. Natalie and Megan were 11:55, 12:23 for Suki and Jinder, 12:25 for Pierre and Michelle, 12:34 for Mickey and Pete, and Rex and Bob at 12:42.
Yeah, yeah, and Cormac and Nicole said that Nicole did the robot for 6 hours, so I presume that they were probably at least about 5 hours behind.
Yeah, well, Mickey and Pete left. I think Mickey and Pete were there for a couple of hours, if I remember correctly. They certainly didn't leave very quickly. So once teams finally got into the legislative building, they had to head to the Royal Canadian Mint, and as is traditional with this season of Amazing Race Canada, and something I am very, very happy, they keep doing active route infos. They don't just send them to a place and go, you know what, you can go somewhere else now. They go, you've got to do a task here, and you've got no choice about it. And there has been an active
Did
route,
you
at least.
notice that Suki and Jinder pulled a Shola and Dwayne?
Yeah, what did they do?
Their father, they said that
Oh,
Winnipeg was the homeland, because in Amazing Race 2 how Shola and Dwayne go to South Africa and they call it the
so
homeland because their father's
Sierra
from
Leone.
Sierra Leone, which is thousands and thousands of kilometers away. Well, here, Suki and Jinder's father isn't even from Winnipeg, but that was the first place he landed in upon entering Canada, and somehow that is now their homeland, is Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I
But
just found amusing that we got an unintentional Shola and Dwayne callback about 12 years later.
the one Winnipeg resident that I'm surprised wasn't mentioned, John Montgomery. He was born in Winnipeg,
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken.
maybe he's too ashamed of it. Maybe he goes by an alias now, and he was one of the thousands of people who stole a car at one point or another in Winnipeg.
Well, they mentioned last year that yeah, he's from Russell in Manitoba. They mentioned last year when they went to Calgary, I think it was, that John lives there now, a place I'm proud to call home.
Doesn't he have a strong tie to Victoria now? I think, or was that where he
Yeah,
was born?
he lives in Rich. No, he lives in Victoria now. Sorry, he was born in, according to Wikipedia, he was born in Russell, Manitoba, which is about 340 k from Winnipeg.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd heard he was from Manitoba. So yeah, he probably is just ashamed that to be associated with the murder capital of Canada 2 years running.
Hmm.
So yeah, the active route info, which is actually not a bad task. It was more of a callback to the season 9 final roadblock, if anything.
Well, yeah, the placard looks the exact same freaking same thing. Have you noticed that the placard even probably had like the same number of possibilities too? It was weird. It's like, hey, we just saw this Amazing Race 9 finale. How about we completely copy it, almost verbatim?
It's 20 flags, I think there was. But
20?
well, it was 20 flags on the table, and it was 72, I think it was, flags outside the mint. Mint.
Yes.
Um,
And they had 10 coins.
yes, but
I would have nailed that task. That's the
so
one task on the Amazing Race I think I would have excelled at just because of my background with the flag trivia and whatnot.
it's like
So it was funny to see these teams struggle.
Suki and Jinder slaughtered this task for that exact same reason. Because
Yes.
I know we
You can
mentioned
tell that they watched a lot of Amazing Race, judging by how they just came about and said, hey, this really isn't that difficult. If you can separate some of those like Middle Eastern flags that have or the European flags that just have the stack of 3 colors and just have the minimal differences, if you can tell the differences between those, then you pretty much got your flags mastered.
well, we mentioned it in the cast preview show, but they are, I think, the most well-travelled team of everyone.
Yes.
They have visited a lot of countries, as I think we got a little sight of this week, didn't we? Seeing them in.
Yes, a little slideshow of pictures. I think they said that they visited over 20, including 2 of them being World Cups.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that they were stolen from Jinder's Facebook.
Yes.
I think I've definitely seen at least one of those pictures on Jinder's Facebook before. Not that I stalk people, but yeah, they absolutely slaughtered that task. Everyone else made such hard work of it because a lot of those flags
Actually,
weren't actually
three
that
three
hard.
all-male teams did terrible at it. The all-male teams were all at the bottom temporarily here.
Yeah, I don't I don't know how people could screw up that
Jimmy
much on that
Rexendale
task.
just doing terrible at it.
Yeah, I mean Ryan and Rob. Well, Rob lives in Australia now. I think Rob lives in Sydney. Um, Jinder lives in, I want to say Thailand now. I think maybe. Um,
Oh,
so there's a couple
that's a
of
big jump up from Terrace.
yeah, there's a couple of teams who don't actually live in Canada anymore. Apparently, yeah, Jinder lives in Thailand.
Hmm.
But I just don't get how people could screw up the flag so much. There's 20 there anyway. Not a lot of the flags will look very similar. I know there was some sort of Asian and African countries that have very similar flags, but it's not going to be that difficult.
I found it amusing how the Olympians struggled with the Czech Republic flag when it's probably a flag they see in every international tournament ever.
Exactly. I mean, if you are a hockey player and you don't recognize the Russian flag, the American flag, Canadian flag, obviously, Czech Republic do very well in ice hockey. A lot of the sort of Eastern European
Scandinavian
countries,
countries.
Eastern Europe and Scandinavia have pretty much a monopoly on hockey players in terms of good ones that travel around the world. It's not going to be that difficult for them. They should, especially when they've got a task coming up that is perfectly suited to them.
What I want is for Alan and Audrey and Pierre and Michelle to try and pronounce all the countries. I got a huge kick out of Pierre and Michelle trying to pronounce Philippines, or Audrey being completely flustered by hearing that there's a country named United, where I think she said like United.
Yeah, she was.
There what?
She was not aware of the UAE. But we do have a great. I know it's one of my favorite recurring segments when we do the ridiculous pronunciations from Pierre and Michel, but there is a great one coming up. Like one of my favourite ones they've ever done.
Yes.
So Natalie and Megan, Mickey and Pete, and Elena and Ajay all fail on their first try, but Natalie and Megan managed to leave the task in first anyway. And as you mentioned, Suki and Jinder arrived in 7th place, but they absolutely slaughtered the task and managed to leave in 2nd.
I wonder when they showed up in last if they thought they were 3rd.
Oh, that Bob's face when they found out they were eliminated was hilarious. He was just like, "Oh, poor Bob."
Blindside.
Yeah. See, I've even got a screenshot of it. Poor Bob.
Oh, you.
But yeah, the Elena and Ajay.
He resembles Pete from Amazing Race 10 Sunny. He's like a more optimistic version of Peter, except that equally painful to Peter's pessimism from Amazing Race 10.
Yeah, I knew he looked familiar to me. I just couldn't work out who.
Except he's not belittling the people.
He's not belittling Rex for quitting all those tasks. Rex and Bob.
Oh my gosh, Rex! I don't know if we can do this.
And Pierre and Michelle leave in 3rd, 4th, and 5th respectively, and teams must travel to the most notable place in Winnipeg, the coldest and windiest intersection in Canada, at Portage in Maine. Was that a deliberate reference?
I've never heard of that intersection before.
No, I googled it afterwards. Apparently, it is reasonably famous. Apparently, it's on Canadian Monopoly boards.
Oh.
But was it a deliberate reference when they got them?
Is that the card that makes you go back 3 spaces?
Yeah, probably. Or makes you... Yes.
The wind blows you back 3 spaces to New York Avenue.
You've frozen to death. Make your way to the hospital. Or to the morgue.
Yes. It's like Chicago Junior, I guess, that intersection.
Yeah, was it deliberate that they got them to portage the canoe last week as well?
Yeah, it'd be funny if they had a canoe in the intersection and they made them portage it to a man-made pool of some sort nearby. That would have been the best.
So Natalie and Megan faced their greatest foe on the way to the intersection, a train.
Yes.
Who would have thought the Olympians could be felled by a train?
I thought Hawkeye Hatfield from the video game Sunset Riders was going to appear after the entire train went by. That's going to be a really obscure reference for our listeners, but if you've ever played Sunset Riders, you would be giggling a lot right now.
You can tell I haven't then.
Well, but he's also on Sunset Riders.
It was also hilarious to see our first ever intersection route marker on the Amazing Race Canada.
You know what they should have had at Portage in Maine, besides making them portage, is if there was an intersection route marker at the intersection.
I wouldn't actually be shocked if Canada does end up having an intersection, because the producers are the same people who did... I found this out last week. The producers are actually the same people, I believe, who do Amazing Race Israel, did Amazing Race Australia, both of whom love an intersection and actually do good intersections. So it's not entirely out of the prospect, especially with 6 teams, which is usually about where it appears.
Yes, or the rare exception of 8 teams.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think when Amazing Race Australia 1 did it. I know Amazing Race Australia 2 did it at 8. Amazing Race Australia 1 had 2 of them. One was definitely Final 6. I think one might have been Final 8, actually. Yeah, it was. Final 8 and Final 6.
You mean it didn't have 7 or 5 teams when they did the intersection?
that would have been such a great troll, wouldn't it? Have an intersection with an odd number of teams and then make one team actually get eliminated because they have no team with them. Oh,
Poor Bilal and Saeed get screwed over again.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I could probably guess which team it would be in this season, but
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that as well.
yeah. Well, I can narrow it down to two teams, both of whom coincidentally have an or had an express pass. I don't think any other team would be at danger of an intersection elimination.
Yeah.
So when they finally got to Portage and Maine, they discovered it was a detour, which was puck off or pinch it. And in puck off, teams had to head to the MCS Centre dressing skates and ice hockey uniforms and take part in an ice hockey drill. Once they hit 5 pucks into 5 different spots, they received their next clue from an effing moose. Is this the most Canadian task ever?
Does Mickey the Moose have any relation to Marshall the Moose from Canada?
Someone actually did point that out when the preview last week went up. That it's probably a love affair.
Yes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fan fiction written about that.
Yeah, Canadian reality TV/fiction. Mickey the Moose and Marshall the Moose. At least you wouldn't have to change the
Actually,
surname if they're married.
the town of Moose Jaw isn't too far away, so they could meet up in Moose Jaw, because Marshall the Moose is voiced by, what was his name? Oh, Trevor Boris. And Trevor Boris actually was trained by my linguistics professor at a tourist spot in Winnipeg there. So both of those mooses are indeed Manitobas. So and they're far off. They have a lot in common. So I wish the best to.
This was a very, very stereotypical detour because Pinch It had teams heading to a traditional Manitoban basement and avoiding getting murdered whilst making 74 pierogies to the satisfaction of Pumbaa from the Lion King. Once she was satisfied with all 74, what a random number, they received their next clue.
I think they just looked at Rudy Bosch's age from Survivor, Borneo, and All Stars, and thought, "Hey, let's just go with that number."
Yeah, 74 though. It's such an odd number for them to pick. Just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I'm curious if somebody would have not done that task if it was 76 or
Maybe
77
someone's
instead.
a little bit sort of superstitious with their numbers.
Yeah. Ethan's son would have done it if the number was 88.
Yep. Hashtag Pierogi Pumbaa.
Oh, Lion King.
Just a warning, I'm going to keep it as long as this
Everyone's been watching a lot.
I love that one.
Everyone's watching a lot lately. So yeah, Lion King has been relatively ignored since Robin Williams, so it still gets some love on the internet for this week.
Yeah, hands down, best.
Although Robin Williams does deserve the other 90% of our love.
Yeah, having hands down, best Disney film of all time, Lion King.
It actually has two decent video games for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, one of the only video game.
And there's also this really weird Timon and Pumbaa mini game that was released for Super Nintendo in the late 90s.
It's one of the only video game adaptations of a film that's actually decent. Isn't the Lion King game supposed to be really, really, really difficult?
Yeah, another good one actually is indeed Aladdin for sickness.
I am shocked, given the Disney attractions, that they've never made a proper Toy Story video game as well. Midway Mania is by far the most popular attraction at any of the Disney parks now.
Yeah, I think I played that one once. I remember it being advertised like crazy in some of the Disney home video cassettes.
Yeah, the actual ride's decent, but it's like 2.5 hour queues. It's one of those that you just walk past and think, at least I don't have to queue behind them people. Also, one of my favourite NPCs ever in Amazing Race history this week, the coach at the hockey task. Him trying to advise Natalie and Megan. Bless.
Yes.
Sweetie. Yes, pipe down. They know what they're
Wonder
doing.
if it was to. Oh, it really shows a little how Natalie and Megan are a part of the gold medal team.
What I would have done in that case is hidden the fact that I was a gold medalist and just made them think that I was really, really good at skating somehow. Just shock them with how good I am.
Or as Audrey would say, really, really good.
Really, really good. Oh, Natalie.
Do you notice the whole psych thing that John Montgomery did to us?
No.
With the advertisement there, how they read out the detour, said, oh, it's a, and then we said, oh, and this is the first stop, and then they don't explain what the task is for another 10 minutes. There's a pass forward, and then just move on.
Having said that, they don't tend to explain fast forwards on the US race unless it's actually properly used. It's
yeah, they use
it was nice to see a fast forward again.
Why would they just tease us like that? Or is somebody actually going to?
Yeah, it was nice to see a fast forward again because how many seasons is it since I've seen a fast forward? Probably 21 was the last one that actually properly aired. That is a long time ago.
Oh yeah, 23 had the failed Donatrim pass forward that never happened because it was oddly enough too windy.
Yeah.
But yet the wind didn't stop it from happening this week in Manitoba.
Funnily enough, Jason and Amy actually went back and did that this week. Amy definitely did. Because I saw a picture.
I used to really miss fast forwards being on every single leg of the race, like in the first 4 seasons of Amazing Race. It was the most strategic element of the early seasons, and they just took it away from us. And now it's just whoever's in first should always go for the fast forward. But Natalie and Megan just totally went against that strategy because they were too obsessed with wanting to pwn everybody at hockey that instead a fourth place team went for the fast forward.
I knew it was dangerous mentioning fast forwards around you. Yeah, it's nice to see fast forwards.
Yes, it always is, because that's still my number one problem with Amazing Race nowadays.
Yeah, it's.
But yeah,
I can't actually think when the last time.
Yeah, with the Crusher, if you're in first place, it's just mind-boggling to see fourth place. It's probably the time that somebody as low as 4 next forward this week.
Yeah, I'm glad we actually saw the fast forward this year instead of last season where there was apparently a fast forward in Saskatchewan and it wasn't aired because it was so difficult no one could complete it. Whereas this year's was not at all difficult.
Was that a task that copied the Mole Australia with like the blind car or something like that?
Oh, no, it was a simulator, the police car one, because it was they had to do the Lenzel task first apparently. It was a police car simulator of some description, but the blind car one is a Mole classic. I think the UK were the first one to do the blind car one actually. I know it's been done in Holland definitely. But yeah, it's a great task that one. Pick the person who most recently qualified driving, put them in a blind car, and get other people to guide them. And they have to act legally at all times to win the monies.
I like how Natalie and Megan were just humiliated with not with other teams. The other teams just thought, oh, or Audrey saying, oh, they're definitely going up forward, and then you cut to Natalie and Megan,
Yeah, Natalie and Megan sucking at hockey.
and they'll do it faster than the shot number 35 was by that point.
You know how we love Suki and Jinder? Hands down, their best piece of dialogue was at this task. Bar none. Do you know how to skate, Suk? How hard could it be? Do you know if you're left or right-handed? Who cares? As soon as they got to the hockey desk. And Mickey and Pete used to play hockey together when they were about 9 as well. The other team with hockey experience.
Yeah, I think they said they did it in the 6th grade, so that would make them 11, I think.
Yeah, 11 or 12. But they were very good at this task.
And the two teams who did the pierogies task ignored it or didn't want to do hockey because two of them had experience before. Suki and Jinder were the only ones who wanted to do hockey even without ever setting their foot on ice, which I thought, maybe 74 pierogies could be faster, but probably not by much because if it's a detour and there's food prep involved, I would never do it because food prep is always a lot longer than you think it's going to be.
I think I think this is one of those detour cases where you look at it and think, that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult, but we'll get out there a hell of a lot quicker. I would have definitely picked hockey, partially because it's cool and much more interesting to do than making dumplings. But also, it's probably going to be a little bit quicker unless you stupidly suck at it. It all depends on your partner as well. If your partner's reasonably sporty,
I must say that as someone, as someone who grew up in an East Indian neighborhood, I must say that my ice skating techniques would be identical to Jinder's. That would be with me flailing around the pylons like that. That would definitely be me.
Suki and Jinder did actually impress me with reasonable skating abilities. They weren't the worst skating I've ever seen.
Yeah, they did it 10 to 15 shots quicker than Ali and Megan did.
Yeah, the stats were Pierre and Michelle left first with 11 shots to do 5. Mickey and Pete left in second with 9. Natalie and Megan were third with 57. That's 53 shots on the 5 shot. 53. Suki and Jinder took 39. Alan and Adre took the fast forward. Rex and Bob and Ryan and Rob took forever at pinch it. And left the detour in 6th and 7th.
Oh yeah, Suki and Jinder took 39 shots. That's what it was. So they did 18 shots quicker than Olympic gold medalists. So 0 experience versus more than a ton of experience today.
They scored their first one in 9 shots as well, which is probably reasonable. It's probably a reasonable attempt, especially if they're trying to get the feel of how it is to skate and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a...
pretty impressive to do with that. I would think it would take more than 39 shots.
It's a bit of a learning curve to skate, I think, isn't it? Obviously, Natalie and Megan make it look ridiculously easy because they do it all day.
Yeah, I've really long one for me. I've done twice. I still need I just hang on to I remember in elementary school we had to go do hockey twice, and I just huddles for both times as I went there.
Yeah, as I've heard it described before, you've got to remember that you've got blades on your feet. You are literally standing on knives.
Yes.
Um, so
I
Ellen and
want to hear
Audrey,
Alan and Audrey just being pronounced so fast forward was pretty amusing, especially when they told the taxi that they're gonna go by Joaquin.
whacking. Yeah, they only
We're trying to hear them say the word saddlery.
they only took the fast forward when they realised that neither Natalie and Megan or Suki and Jinder had taken it. As
Yeah,
we've
Alan
said
entered the
before,
women's change room and found out.
there is Natalie and Megan have not seen this show before at all. They were so recruited.
Yes.
Fast forward logic dictates if you have a task if you get it with the detail, you have a task that you are going to smoke in theory, which they didn't. Um, at least check out the detour. At least check out the fast forward even. If it's going to be something ridiculous, of course you don't. But as it happens, it was one of the easier fast forwards they've ever had.
Hmm.
It certainly wasn't the most ridiculous fast forward they've ever had, but it was one of the easier ones.
I bet Alan was so scared that it would be head shaving.
It wouldn't be out of the question. Going back to both Israel and Australia, both have had head shaves as reasonably recent fast forwards. Both have actually had the life drawing task as well.
Did either team have to give up $500 worth of extensions?
No, I'm so disappointed that Rachel didn't shave her head. 'Cause she would
Hmm.
have looked ridiculous.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I'm quite surprised that the American seasons haven't picked up on the life drawing task yet, actually, because that's a international Amazing Race classic fast forward. Happened in Canada,
You
actually.
know what?
Happened in Vancouver last time. Oh, in Australia.
Imagine if it was tryouts with Natalie and Megan. If it was tryouts, Natalie and Megan would be cut before Suki and Jinder.
Yeah, they would because they couldn't hit the 5 shot.
Yeah, the 5 hole.
5 hole, yeah.
I also want to hear Alain yell, "Do it!"
Do it. He's not as French as RJ is, though, is
Just
he?
every leg from now on. With Natalie and Megan doing the hockey task, on their 57th, Natalie uttered her trademark, nailed it on the 57th shot. I would have just rolled over laughing if she did that.
I'm 99% sure that Natalie and Megan have never seen The Amazing Race before. I know at least one of them was recruited
And I think
because
both
they
were
were looking for
recruited,
a
yeah.
pair of hockey players.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, just
I
hearing
think
their trademark nailed
Natalie's.
it is just gonna be it's just gonna be their own trademark for the rest of the season.
I think Natalie said in an interview that she got an email off Hockey Canada saying we're looking for a team to be on The Amazing Race, and then Megan emailed her about it the same day, and then they put a video together. I think they technically applied, but they were looking for a particular section of people.
Yes, definitely recruited.
I'm very, very sure that Natalie has never seen The Amazing Race before. Hence why they burned off the express pass for some reason. Hence why they screwed up fast forward logic and ended up coming in fifth this leg, which is a
But yeah,
terrible.
they're still fan favorites.
Yeah,
They're fan favorites right now.
didn't the special say that the top three were them, Mickey? It was them, Mickey and Pete, and Pierre and Michelle, wasn't it?
Yep.
Were the top
Anybody
three to.
who Olympians, and then like, those are the most popular demographics amongst gamers.
Yeah, I'm surprised Ryan and Rob aren't up there because I think with the exception of people calling them deathly boring, I haven't seen a bad word said about them. I don't think. They would probably be my guess above.
Oh, about Mickey and Pete?
No, above like Pierre and Michel. Um,
Oh, I see.
so once we spent a lot of time on the detour there and fast forward, didn't we? So once teams completed their respective detour option, they had to find whiskey dicks and find their next clue outside. I know we promised not to do any whiskey dick puns, but you know, I know neither of us are going to keep to that.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Come on, even the roadblock clue was who has performance issues.
Oh my
CTV,
word, you did not go there. Who
CTV know
has
exactly what they are
performance
doing.
issues? Whereas, what was it, Pierre and Michel? Yes, I think it was Pierre who called it whisks. So
Yes,
I'm just picturing whiskey all spread throughout the bar, according to how they pronounced it.
they said whiskey disc probably about 4 or 5 times on camera. That is the best bastardization of the English language so far for them.
Yeah,
And
it's awful. It's just a crime against humanity that neither Henri nor Pierre and Michel did the block. We sit down on one of the
I was going to say
entertainment
the exact
cultures need the most.
I was going to say the exact same thing because both
Yeah.
of the Frenchy teams having to sing in English a glam rock tune dressed as basically a cheap stripper would have been glorious.
Yeah. My French teacher in high school said that
the task was
the worst thing that you can make somebody who speaks French as their first language do is to make them sing hi ho, it's off to work we go from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because they'll overly enunciate the H in hi ho to the point that you just can't keep a straight face for more than 2 seconds.
I-O, it's after work we go. So, according to Grant Bowler, one team member obviously has to dress as a glam rocker, memorise a song, and perform it to a crowd. Have you seen this week's Amazing Race Australia yet?
Yes, I have.
Grant was so pissy this week. When introducing the roadblock, he said a roadblock is a team where obviously one team member can compete.
Yeah, it's like if you haven't watched the show in the past 10 years, you're pretty much what he was. That's pretty much how he said it.
I sort of knew that I said this to
some pros and cons.
Yeah, he was really pissy in the detour as well. But I said this to Ben, Michelle, and Nathan. I'm pretty sure that Grant is only there for the paycheck now. He was a little bit wound up in Amazing Race Australia 2, but he just seems in such a bad mood all the time on Amazing Race Australia 3. He just does not want to be there. He doesn't want to travel 90,000 kilometers. And he's probably just there for the monies.
I always just assume... Yeah, I assume that there's a saboteur in Amazing Race Australia just because I'm so used to only seeing Grant Bowler exclusively in the Mall Australia, where I'm thinking, oh no, Elizabeth sabotaged her and Todd this week, just prevented money from going into the Scotiabank pot.
It's such a crying shame that Elizabeth and Todd got eliminated. They were already.
Let's not piggyback on Tar Australia material too much.
Maybe. They won't care. They didn't advertise us anyway.
I noticed that only one other note I had regarding the detour is that Jinder looked like the way he was flailing around. It reminded me so much of P. Diddy's dance moves. But with the roadblock, talk about some of these interesting outfits that we got to see.
Jinder had a great week for dressing up. because he actually really suited the mullet.
Mm-hmm.
He probably looked the best out of all the
Yes, he did.
all the people because he suited it. Everyone else
The
though
task,
looks awful.
yeah, the task overall just was perfect for him.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
I do have to point out
the actual
that rock stars need co-captain on stage all that often. Jin has so much energy that his cap and or that his low in energy matches with the peak of somebody on cocaine. That's how energy Ginger is at these tasks, and that's why this rock block was perfect for him.
they had a really good week. And actually, if that taxi driver hadn't have screwed them up so royally, they probably would have won this leg.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Pierre and Michelle using their express pass, it wasn't a waste actually, because
Yeah,
I can understand why they did it. But
yeah,
they probably would have won the
to
leg.
avoid humiliation by us for a whole hour.
Yes, they should have still once they checked in, they should have still made him do it just so they could have a an online only scene.
Would have just tried to impersonate this.
I don't even know what the song was. Did you notice that this is the second task this leg that required them to go into a Manitoban basement as well? Are they trying to play up the stereotypes of it being murderous? Just go to this conveniently placed basement. We won't kill you, honest.
Yes. The murder go. Yeah. Task in a Manitoban basement. Yeah, it's not really challenging the stereotype too much. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so we've got both express passes out of the way now. We don't have to deal with them anymore for the second half of the season.
If I'm not mistaken, that is the earliest that both express passes have been used. After leg 6.
I believe so, yeah.
Because
that's pretty quick.
Jet and Cord used their final one in leg 8. Or was it leg 9, actually?
Mm-hmm.
It was leg 9. No, it's leg 8. We had... Well, the latest one used in 23 was... it's probably leg 5-ish. Kristen and Darren were eliminated with theirs, as were Jess and Anders. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the latest that a double express pass has both been used. Reasonably confident on that. Yeah, Michelle described the...
Was I fell asleep while Rex and Bob were pinching pierogies? And the explanation of pierogies at first?
How many different spellings of pierogi were there on that as well? Because I'm pretty sure there was one on the clue, there was one on the actual graphic, and there was another one somewhere as well. There's like 3 or 4 different ones.
Hashtag pierogi etiquette.
Yeah, no, hashtag pierogi Pumbaa. Still on the screen.
Yes, hashtag, sorry, right.
Yeah, Michelle said...
just to see them and Ryan and Rob just gossip with the grandmothers there at the pierogi task there, which is just hilarious, especially that there's actually that we now get to know another Helen for this reason. It's not Helen, the obscure Olympian from round 1, it's Helen, the pierogi Nazi.
The pierogi Nazi.
Yes.
That's a nice way of describing her. Such a sweet old lady, but also a pierogi Nazi.
The Sultan of Pinches.
Yeah.
Apparently you can probably...
Go on then, what did you say, sorry? Yeah, Michelle said, this song is too hard for me because I am French. Won't be able to use that excuse next week, matey. Or the week after, for that matter. Best reaction when they got the clue was probably Mickey, who said, "Not now, babes. I've got to see my boyfriend John Montgomery."
Yes,
And also,
after
why did?
making out with half of them, and much to his disappointment, none of the people there was Nicole.
No, true. He does, as you proved last week on Twitter. He does want a threesome with her and Pete.
Yep.
Why did they keep showing that guy as well? Every single person, they kept showing the same guy's reaction.
Yeah. Maybe they just cloned all throughout the Christmas there, late 20s, Aaron Carl-like clones.
He must have been like a producer's son or something, because they just kept showing him every time.
Yeah. He's an aspiring actor, that's for sure.
So once they completed the roadblock or the fast forward respectively, the teams had to head to the unfinished Canadian Museum of Human Rights, and because it's not finished, the lifts aren't working, so you got to go all the way up the ramps.
Yep. A building preview.
Yeah, overlooking the beautiful.
It's a remember that we get a preview of a building.
Yeah, overlooking the beautiful murderous city. I was very disappointed that the greaser did not say "Welcome to beautiful Winnipeg, the murder capital of Canada, 2 years running," because that would have been pretty fun.
And if they added like also the car theft capital or Winnipeg, the reason why this leg wasn't a self-drive leg.
I was thinking that was probably the reason it wasn't a self-drive leg, because they do tend to use new cars.
Yes,
and they couldn't really trust it.
Or okay, you could take a taxi, right?
Yeah, make sure you take genuine taxis, guys. We do not want to be saving you. Winnipeg was actually the murder capital of Canada 5 years running. From 2007 to 2011. Which is pretty impressive.
So what do you think about Rusty?
Who's Rusty?
He was the...
Oh, him, yeah.
Judge, he did.
He didn't really have much to say apart from that was great, or that was... Oh, you need to go listen to the song again. He certainly wasn't the best judge they've had this season. I think
he was on a low. I think he was on a low. I think he was close to needing to re-up, I have a feeling.
I think there's a couple of judges this season that actually they probably could put in the Amazing Race pantheon of awesome judges. The random Olympian from week 1 probably...
Rusty would not be one of them.
No, he was just a bit... He was sort of the Grant Bowler of task judges. He was a bit depressed.
Mm-hmm.
As I described it on the Australian podcast earlier.
The Robin Williams news hit him hard.
If the Amazing Race host were a family, Grant would probably be a grumpy cat.
Yeah.
Obviously, Phil's the dad. Woo's the cool uncle. I have probably thought about this a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Actually, John Montgomery's another
One
cool
day there will be a female host of Amazing Race. Just not quite yet.
Latino America.
Oh.
I'll tell you. One of the only instances of a former racer becoming the host as well.
Interesting.
Fun fact, guys. Yeah, I think she was in the 3rd Latino America season, and she's started hosting in the 5th. If I'm not mistaken. She's definitely hosting the next one.
So, Natalie really wanted to try one for...
Yeah, Natalie looks probably the most ridiculous out of anyone.
And Mickey definitely looked... Mickey looked like a rapist during block, I might.
And we're back to being offensive about people. Yeah, Natalie looks ridiculous. So did Mickey. Rob actually probably was second, but only just. Yeah, that's not really saying much when I say that he was probably second. So the greeter said, "Welcome to friendly Manitoba, home of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet,"
Oh, ballet, eh?
which got a shout out already from Rex earlier in the episode. But he went, "Yay, we're going
Mm-hmm.
back to Winnipeg. I've been there loads." Yes, you're not going to get
Yeah. I
eliminated
wonder.
saying
I wonder if the word ballet does have a Canadian origin because it is ballet.
that. Yeah, it has no question. Hey guys, do you want to go play some ball? Eh?
Wonder if ballet in Indonesia also is in partnership with Winnipeg Bell.
I get told off for making stereotypical Canadian jokes. Hey, I'm going to be so much worse in a couple of weeks. So Pierre and Michelle, or Pierre and the Michelles, won a trip to Los Cabos, Mexico, and $3,000 on their conveniently product placement card, so they can spend some monies. Which means that next week you're probably going to get an upgrade to the prize money again. It tends to be 3-week stints.
Yeah, I would think so.
So it's probably going to be 4 or 5 next week, plus a trip to somewhere.
Audrey just looked exhausted. Pit stop and my brain.
Alain and Audrey become only about the 5th team ever to take a fast forward and not come in first as well. It's a very, very small group.
Maybe that's why they're that much more drained. Just the defeat exhausted Audrey.
Yeah, running through a 6-block radius to find random ghost signs. And Mickey and Pete are stoked to reach 3rd place. Suki and Judah somehow come in 4th. Natalie and Megan suck their way on the hockey task to a 5th place finish. And Ryan and Rob scrape in with a 6th, eliminating Rex and Bob from the race. Now next week,
you know what was really disturbing is that Ryan and Rob wanted to seduce Helen, the pierogi Nazi. I'm thinking, okay, Mickey and Pete wanting a threesome with Nicole is one thing, but Ryan and Rob wanting a threesome with Helen, the pierogi Nazi, is not an image I want whatsoever.
Whatever gets them a clue. At least she was the judge instead of just another racer. That would have been kind of distracting for Cormac if his mother was having a threesome with Mickey and Pete.
Yes. Imagine what flight the pierogi Nazi.
Next week was also...
That used to have been the rails there to avoid
Next week was also the only leg where we didn't 100% know the location of it. I'm not surprised it's Normandy. I very much understand why they've done it. Because they seem to be picking
strong Canadian connection.
Picking strong Canadian connections, and obviously the World War I and World War II graves, especially when there's the Canadian cemetery, which they were obviously seen at. It sort of makes sense for them to go there.
Do you think
the week after is Paris, and I'm not sure how many or what the connection will be to Paris.
Being Quebec Senior?
Yeah, but I think people
do you
probably...
think
I think people probably
like
the French, like the Quebecers.
Yeah. Do you think that Ryan was jealous that Rob got to do the roadblock, considering it was essentially a drag task, that he didn't get to dress up in drag for the first opportunity all season?
Yeah, probably. I don't know why they didn't get Ryan to do it, because he's, in inverted commas, a sketch comic on YouTube, so surely he would be better for a performance.
Mm-hmm. Or it was so creepy not creepy, but when Natalie and Megan checked in, how they had this long discussion about them dropping the 5th, and then John being the only team that he tells them, oh, well, see you on the next leg, yelling Megan as if he's trying to make the entire season all about them.
Or as if he's trying to get rid of them because of how boring they are. Wait, which is another potential.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to worry about pushing somebody off the mat as like Pierre and Michelle just show themselves off after 5 seconds. It's like Pierre and Michelle have left the building. I mean, they even finished first this week, and it seemed like they wanted to just punch the ballet girl in the face.
At least they actually talked this week instead of, being a little bit uncooperative with him like last week.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting that we already know.
So
where
who do you think had the
starting
best outfit out of all the teams at the Roblox?
Probably the most ridiculous outfit was probably Natalie. The one that probably looked best on the person was Jinder. Although Rex's was pretty shocking as well. Pierre and the Michelles didn't even dress up. They didn't even.
You're terrible, Rex.
They didn't even. Pierre and Michelle didn't even entertain.
I like how Rex cut off his own performance at the Roblox. He just himself off it, totally booed off stage.
God. Yeah, he really didn't. I don't think he enjoyed that task much. Shite. So, should we talk about next week then?
So,
from the look of it,
the old blindside.
Yeah, no one officially knew where it was going to be.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about the blindside.
Yeah, no one officially knew where it was going to be next week, because, well, they'd been seen in France. There's a particular team who were seen in France, shall we say. But that was the timings added up for that to be leg 8. So there's a bit of a question mark. I mean, my suspicions were either going to be Normandy or maybe Spain, maybe Germany. A lot of countries with easier connection to France. But no, it's Normandy, and for the since Amazing Race 10, if I'm not mistaken, they are actually going to Normandy properly.
I see.
By the look of things,
with Rex and Bob
doing a traditional Normandy task.
Sorry, go ahead.
They seem to be doing a traditional Normandy task of cider next week as well. Normandy's very well known for cider.
I did not know that.
It's where most good cider comes from. But in the American term, I'm talking hard cider here, not soft cider. No, I think it's soft cider they call it. Apple juice, for some reason. Anyway, go ahead.
Just with Rex and Bob. Can we put up the screen capture of Rex and Bob reaction to being eliminated?
Okay, if we must.
Yes, I can't believe. Is that I can't remember the last time that a team was blindsided by being last. It feels like it's been a really long time since, or maybe even not so much of being shocked that they're last, but being off by 4 positions.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad score for them, I should say. How could you possibly...
And they were already supposed to be eliminated twice before. Like, if Sean hadn't dislocated his shoulder in the second round, and if Nicole didn't screw up at the biathlon, Rex and Bob would have been eliminated both of those rounds. So they were lucky to even make it to the halfway point of the race. And then to top it all off with them screwing up another memorization task and then being eliminated at the ballet in Amazing Race 24, Cowboys riding off sunset on a horse-like fashion, which is one of the crazy coincidences ever again. It's just crazy to see them go out like this.
How could they possibly not know they were last, though? I mean, seriously,
They just assumed that Natalie and Megan were way ahead.
Yeah,
or not way ahead, but assumed that Natalie and Megan were first.
You've got to assume that the express... Well, you've got to have known that the express pass was used, which is correct. You've got to probably assume that Alain and Andre, seeing as though you hadn't seen them all day, were probably going to have taken the fast forward. But other than that, the teams sucked. If you don't think that you're last, you probably suck at this game.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the most subtle thing ever.
Yeah. Can you think of off the top of your head the last time that somebody was that far off with not figuring out that they were eliminated?
No.
Because even Anders knew he was eliminated when he didn't use his express pass after hours and hours.
Yeah,
Because he
because
just did it out of stubbornness.
they
But
thought
this is the first
Chuck and
time in
Winona were last.
a long where somebody's genuinely shocked that they're out.
Actually,
Oh,
no, actually, I think Jess and Anders didn't know in season 22 because they thought Chuck and Winona were way behind. I've got a feeling that they didn't actually know. But who knows? But yeah, it was a bit of a blindside for them, which was nice to see. It's nice to always see a team go out just thinking, really? We're out? So it looks like we've got Horses, Cider and Graves next week as they head to Caen
what a lovely combination.
in Normandy. Well, it does seem to be a bit of stereotyping Normandy with cider, with the horses and the battlefields and stuff. And obviously, we won't be allowed to make any jokes about the whole graveyards next week. So hopefully, they'll have enough tasks for me to not for me to take the piss out of.
Yeah.
So, I think we're about done.
Yeah. Are we thinking it's going to be a non-elimination next week? Because that's the feeling that I get.
Yeah. If you want me to, I can actually confirm it's a non-elimination next week because I know who it is. Sadly, it's the one thing that I know about the season going into it was who gets non-eliminated next week because of a sighting in Paris with a particularly weird speed bump, I must say. It involves playing the accordion.
Interesting.
I have no idea how that relates to France. Absolutely none.
Weird Al sponsored the task.
If they get Weird Al as a judge, this will be the best season of Amazing Race ever. Ever. Especially if it's a task about word crimes.
Yes.
So thank you very much for watching and listening.
All right, I think that's about it for this week.
We will see you next Wednesday at the same time for another episode of our Amazing Race Canada Recap Podcast brought to you by the UR Team Number Facebook group. And don't forget, you can join Ben, Michelle and Eamon every Wednesday at 10 p.m. AEST, which is about 5 a.m. PT or 1 p.m. GMT, every Wednesday for the Amazing Race Australia recap, which is just 2 hours before we start. Or you can catch up. If you look on my my YouTube page, I've got the playlist of all of them anyway. See you next week.